So in this channel, we've tried out many different things to get lower gearing on your gravel bike. It's a whole series that we've called the Budget Mullet. We've tried hacks that have included everything from friction shifting to replacing the derailleur cage on a road derailleur with a mountain bike cage. Some people have discovered a different way to do it by replacing the cable shift fin. But in this video, my friends, I'm going to share with you probably the most elegant solution that anyone can do. Doesn't require having to hack a derailleur, just getting a small and simple part. This is the Jtek Shiftmate number 9. That's very important. There are many iterations of the Jtek Shiftmate, but this in theory will allow us to have a drivetrain with road shifters and a mountain bike derailleur. So in this cave of bad ideas, we're going to see if it works. So welcome back, Pathless Peddlers, to another cave of bad ideas. It should actually be called the living room of bad ideas, as I'm in the living room of my parents' house. You too can be a moderately successful YouTuber and make videos from your parents' living room when they're not at home. So anyways, before we continue on this episode, I have to give some thanks. Lots of you guys have been super enthusiastic about the series and have been donating parts for future hacks. So first big thank you goes out to the folks at 44 Bikes who very generously sent over this plastic bag of bike goodies. Everything from shifter cables to brake cables to star nuts and ferrules, all the small things that bike shops typically have, but you know, as not being a bike shop, things that I have to order piecemeal, and it does add up. So thank you so much, 44 Bikes. And also a big thank you to Zender from Boulder, Colorado, who sent over this postcard. It says, Happy New Year. It's a race postcard versus package. And this is a package he's referring to. And in this package that Zender sent is some yummy Sumatran coffee. You guys know we are big coffee nerds, so thank you, Zender, for both sending the postcard and the coffee. And the last big thank you goes out to Sam Warren from Fayetteville, Arkansas, who actually very generously sent over a tan pan and a wolf tooth road length so that we can do more Shimano-based hacks. Currently, right now, I only have this bike to play with. All my Shimano bikes are in Missoula, so when we get back into town in a couple of weeks, look for some Shimano hacks using those parts. When I first started doing the Budget Mullet series, the folks over at Revolver Bikes reached out and reminded me all about the Jtek Shiftmate 9. So the thing about Jtek, I remember hearing that the former owner had passed away, and there was some question as to whether the company would continue. Apparently, it's still up and operational. It's based in England, so when you do a search on it, SJS Cycles comes up, but you can get it within North America. I think Peter White sells it, and also the fine folks at Revolver Bikes, from whom I purchased this one. So what the Jtek does is it changes the cable pull from road so it communicates to a mountain bike derailleur. In this instance, I'm going to be using some Rival road shifters, and I'm going to see if I can get it to communicate with this NX Eagle rear derailleur. Interesting thing about mountain bike rear derailleurs is they don't have a barrel adjuster on the derailleur, unlike road derailleurs. Jtek Shiftmate 9, that's kind of a mouthful to say, does solve that by having an integrated barrel adjuster, and that's one of the reasons why this one tends to cost a little bit more than the other Shiftmates. I believe the MSRP on this is about $60. So with all that said, let's see how easy or uneasy it is to install this. I suspect I'm going to have to probably shorten the cable housing just because it requires a different amount of housing. But thankfully, I've got some housing, I've got some cables. Big thanks to you guys. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is just drop it into small gear, and I'm gonna have to remove the chain, actually. So again, I will use the trusty wolf tooth pack pliers, probably one of my most used tools in the Cave of Bad Ideas. So here we go. Okay, so you got the chain removed. Now I'm going to undo the pinch bolt here. Now I'm just going to remove the derailleur. And again, this derailleur that I've been running, this Budget Mullet setup, is a Rival road derailleur with the Garbaruk extender cage. I'm going to do a longer term review in a little bit, and I'm going to compare it with the actual Axis mullet system. So look for that in a couple weeks. Next, I'm going to just install this NX Eagle rear derailleur. Should be pretty simple. Okay, just tightening it on. Okay, so this is what we got to work with. Have to shorten this so it fits a a little bit neater in there. So this looks like it'll go in here. So a little bit of an issue here. Looks like this. So I don't think this one will actually work because it's interfering with the knuckle, unless I'm doing this completely wrong. Okay guys, so this is where we're at. The rear derailleur is installed. This is the Jtek Shiftmate, and this is the cable that we've got to make go inside this. I think there's an issue here insofar as this was designed for derailleurs where the cable entry was around here, so it would be a little bit nicer slope into the derailleur. So we're gonna have to get a little bit creative here. You know, it wouldn't be the cave of bad ideas if we didn't do something a little bit wonky, so that is what we're gonna have to do. I think I'm going to try to run it this way. It's not ideal, but we'll see if this is possible. Ideally, this would go this way, but again, because of the position of the cable entry hole and this kind of main bolt here, just not gonna happen. So that means we're still gonna have to cut this guy, not as much, but yeah, it's gonna be a pain. It's just not gonna be the neatest looking routing in the world, so OCD bike mechanics are gonna freak out, so whatever. Let's give it a go. Expand the hole a little bit. This is what it's gonna look like, guys. We will have kind of adjustability here with this inline adjuster. Again, it's not going to be the neatest cable housing or cable routing, unfortunately, but it is what it is. So we're back in business. I actually got a chance to use one of the extra long cables that 44 Bikes sent. So thanks again. Your contribution to the Cave of Bad Ideas already at work. So go straight, pop it through. There's basically a pulley in here with 2 slots, and at some point the cable has to cross over to that second slot. And what they say is there is a flat portion, which is right there, and that is your crossover point. And then it exits the hole, and that magically converts the pole, and then insert it in there, and we have got our somewhat janky Jtek Shift9 attached, but it's as good as it's going to get with this particular setup. Threaded through the cable fin. Cable's in here, gone through these 2 pulleys and through this pulley and through the cable fin. This was supposed to be the easiest budget mullet of all, but it's being a little problematic. Let's see if it works though. I've done some basic kind of derailleur adjustments, just setting the limit screws. Very handy tool to have is this guy. In my experience, SRAM stuff, very particular about the pulley to cassette spacing, so constantly checking that, making sure I'm within good range. So let's see what we got here. See if we can't fix that. Okay guys, so I did a little bit more derailleur adjustment. So, you know, the way it's routed, not ideal, but it seems to be working. So let's see how it works. This is the highest gear. And there you go. So right after I finished editing that video, I reached out to the folks at Revolver, where I bought the Jtek from, and asked them if they had any other better suggestion to pull this off. They sent a picture where instead of the Jtek shooting out like this on the back, it was a little bit more angled out. Slider curve here in the on the chainstay. So I'm going to try that. I will say I did take the bike out for a short ride in this configuration, and it actually shifts pretty well. Even with this kind of, I would say, slightly janky looking cable run, seems to work okay, but we're going to try it out and see if we can't make this a little bit neater. So of course that means undoing everything once again. Okay, I retracted the cable, hopefully enough. So now my goal is to cut it probably about right there. Looks like it's nice and seated. I'm gonna put the ferrule on this guy. Again, just putting this through. So the way this works, wasn't clear inside where it was darker, is this cable goes through. So the cable goes all the way through the pulley, or the first groove of the pulley, making sure to keep it straight. And then what we want to do here is find this flat ridge. And if you can see, but there is a kind of flat area here. And that is where the cable will cross from one groove of the pulley to the other. Trying to hold that in place. So if you're familiar with travel agents, it's a little bit easier than travel agent because there's not a really tight hole that can muck up the cable. So this is, I think, the final resting place for this guy. Kind of clear this, it does shoot off to the side. I'll shoot it from a different angle in a bit once I get this wrapped through the cable fin. And there we go. Okay. I can definitely tell that this is actually a much better routing already. Required almost no cable adjustment. I think this is the way to do it, guys. So that first way I showed you, passable, but this feels really good. You know, the limit screws were set up from the previous video, but I didn't have to adjust it at all. Works great on the stand. I'll have to try it on the road, but let's switch angles so you can see what it looks like. Here it is from the back, and just shift through the gears here. So it's working pretty good on the stand. And again, the reason why this is off to an angle rather than inline is because of where the derailleur connects to the dropout. This is just really bulbous, and it's preventing kind of a straighter cable run. After having done this, a lot neater than my initial attempt that was rounding it up and backwards, this does add the kind of issue of more width here. It is sticking out. I think I'll actually hop on the bike real quick and see if I hit this with my heel and report back. Okay guys, we are back. I took it out for a spin, and with my size 9 feet, I was not hitting the cable. I can see if you have a short wheelbase bike and really large feet, let's say like 11 and above, that there is a possibility of running into the housing here. If you have a bike with a longer rear end, let's say 440, 450, so essentially a touring bike, that'll be less of an issue. But short wheelbase, big shoes, this routing may pose a problem, in which case I would recommend the alternative routing that we did the first time, where it's kind of popping up like this. I will say generally that the shifting quality with this routing feels a touch lighter, and it was a lot less finicky to set up. If you can run it without hitting your feet into the cable, then of the two, I would go this way. If you have big feet and you're finding you're brushing this, then I would run it the alternative way with the Jtek going this way and the cable looping up. Slightly more finicky to get good shifting, but still a completely viable solution. So what I think I'll do is just show you how it shifts again on the stand. So pretty light shifting. So far, I think this might generally be the easiest solution. You just have to get that Jtek Shiftmate 9. It was a little bit more complicated than I expected. Looking at pictures online, it seemed it would be like an easy slam dunk. But as always, in reality, things don't always turn out like you expect. That's why we test things, and that's why I do this series. And again, I want to thank 44 Bikes for their gift of cables. Definitely used a few of them just for this one video. And thanks to everyone that's been sending stuff to help support the channel, and in particular, Cave of Bad Ideas. If you want to see more bike hacks, check out the playlist. And as always, keep the supple side down.